that has to be, we have to check ourselves at every turn. Is everybody included in what we're doing, whether it's different kinds of riders, from spandex to commuting to kids to, parents getting back on bikes or octogenarians getting back on bikes. It's just, it has to be everyone, every body size, everybody, every culture, every kind of bicycle. We just have to check ourselves at every turn that we're advocating for everyone, that everybody can be on a bike.
Today, we're continuing our Bike Side Chat series with the 2021 Advocacy Organization of the Year, Bike Newport. This award goes to a bicycling and/or walking organization who, in the past year, made significant progress. Their leaders have worked tirelessly to grow and strengthen their organization and fulfill their mission. The proof of their efforts is in the growth of their capacity, programs, membership, and of course, the victories they've achieved for biking and walking in their state or community. This award also comes with the $1,000 John Graff Prize for advancing safe cycling. Bike Newport is based in the birthplace of the league, Newport, Rhode Island, the city by the sea. Its mission is to create the conditions that lead more people biking more often and to ensure that bicycling is a viable, safe, and comfortable primary choice for transportation and recreation. Like many groups, they make so much happen with a mighty, if small, staff. Nominators pointed out that Bike Newport jumped into action during the pandemic, making sure that people in the community had access to bikes. Quote, the staff and volunteer mechanics increased the inventory of road-ready bikes and opened an email request system. During the next several months, Bike Newport answered the simultaneous dearth in demand for bikes by distributing more than 300 restored bikes to the Newport community, end quote. Another nominator noted that, quote, with or without a pandemic, Bike Newport is a collaboration leader, making the case for long-term improvements for roads that are safe for all road users and to support biking as a primary transportation mode that also promises good physical health, mental health, environmental health, preservation, productivity, and a strong economy, end quote. And now we'll take you to that conversation with Bike Newport and League Bicycle Friendly America Director, Amelia Neptune.
Hi, thanks, Bill. And thanks to Bari, Clare, and Allyson for joining us today to talk more about Bike Newport's Advocacy Organization of the Year Award. And thanks for representing Bike Newport. We're really looking forward to getting to know all three of you and Bike Newport better and sharing your story with the people who love biking as much as all of us. Part of recognizing individuals and organizations in our Advocacy and Education Awards every year is that we want others in the bike community to see themselves as potential future winners. We're so inspired by the work people like you all are doing, and we know others will be as well. So with that, I want to introduce my wonderful colleagues here who are on screen with me before we dive into the questions. So today I'm joined by Bari Freeman, Executive Director and Founder of Bike Newport. Hi, Bari.
Hi, Amelia. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here.
And Allyson McCalla, Director of Community Relations and Administration. Hi, Allyson.
Hi, Amelia. Thank you for having us today. I'm super excited about this interview.
Awesome. And Clare Woodhead, Director of Education. Hi, Clare. Welcome.
Hi, Amelia. Thanks for having us. We're really looking forward to sharing everything about Bike Newport with you all today.
Awesome. Great. So I'll dive into the questions now, starting with Bari. Can you just tell us a little bit about Bike Newport? What do you do and how do you all do it?
Sure. We're just entering into our 10th year. It's pretty exciting to have this happen on sort of a special year. Bike Newport is an advocacy organization, and we're all about getting more people on bikes and improving and encouraging biking. And we do that in three ways. We do it through education and advocacy, which is mostly about infrastructure improvements, and community building, which is getting people out and riding together so everybody can build confidence and comfort together, so that ultimately the result will be more people on bikes. In our very small 7 square mile town, that's very much a destination, Newport, Rhode Island, for historic and landscape and sea and lots of fun. It's a touristic destination, and it's kind of the urban hub of an island and a very small state. So our work goes far beyond the boundaries of Newport, but the hub is Newport, which is a special place that benefits from biking.
Awesome, thanks. And we'd love to get to know the three of you as well. So Bari, can you tell me also how your bike story began, and as founder of Bike Newport, how that came to be, how you were inspired to start Bike Newport? Was there anything in particular that really drew you into the world of bike advocacy and drew you to begin this organization?
Sure. I love that question because I arrived here in 2009 and it was like the worst of the economic crisis. And I had been a consultant and my work had ended and I was poking around looking for work. And while I was doing that, I was tootling around on a beater bike because it was summer in Newport. And the last thing I wanted was to be in a car. And it was just a real Wild West. It seemed like this place was meant to be biked. It's so small and people are going all over town exploring and you could bike or walk anywhere in terms of distance, but it wasn't especially hospitable to a bike. I had a 14-year-old at the time who I didn't really want her on a bike. It was just a lot of distracted, happy tourists. And I thought other people must be thinking about this and started poking around as very much a newbie in town and finding other people who are thinking about it and getting people together and talking about it, making a website. It was all kind of happening on the sidelines while I was looking for work. But ultimately, we launched the organization and at a bike to work day, actually, was where we declared that Bike Newport existed. But it was an all volunteer organization. But in making a map and getting some signage up around town, alerting people to bikes and creating or getting some bike racks up. We started to be seen for our work, and a few funders in town, it caught their eye, and they said that they wanted to fund it and staff it and get us an office. And that was in 2011. And on November 11th, 2011, we registered as an organization, and the rest is history. But it was really about just realizing that this very special little town, the city by the sea, would clearly benefit from bikes. And that was not a new idea. The newness was to actually do something about it in terms of an organized movement.
That is a really inspiring story. So thanks for sharing. Allyson and
I'll
Claire.
throw out one other thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I did read a book during this time called Joyride, which some folks might be familiar with. Mia Burke wrote it. And I made pencil notes all over it. It was about Portland becoming a bikeable town. And I thought, this is Newport. And I wrote all over the book and I wrote to Mia. And it was the motivation. That book said, we can do this. Reading how they did it in Portland really made me realize that we could make progress.
That's awesome. And so true. Every community has that potential. That's great. All right, to turn a similar question over to Allyson and Claire, and I'll start with Allyson. How did your own bike story begin, and what brought you to Bike Newport? And was there anything in particular that inspired you to join the world of bike advocacy?
Yeah, my bike story began when I was a child. So, I grew up in Newport, and my bike was my only mode of transportation. So I really used my bike to get around town, hang out with my friends. And I found myself, when there was nothing to do, my friends weren't allowed outside, I would use my bike and just explore town. Newport, like Bari said, it's very small. So I was able to ride to different neighborhoods, to go over a friend's house, or we would play bike tag. So we would grab our bikes and we would go into like the Marriott parking lot. And it was like this big open space and you had to go from level to level. And so we'd have to try, now that I think about it, it's probably pretty dangerous, but we would take our bikes and we would have to tag each other's wheels with it. So that's where my bike story began. Just in childhood, I just used it. We weren't allowed to use city transportation. A, because it costs money, and B, it was kind of dangerous, going on a bus and not knowing where you were going to end up. So I just used my bike to get from place to place. And what drew me to Bike Newport was just all the community work that Bike Newport does. I've always been involved with, participating in community events. And, I went to a few of Bike Newport's events, and I started noticing that I was seeing people that I hadn't seen in a long time, and just making new connections, but also kind of rekindling old connections as well. So that was what drew me to Bike Newport, was just all of the community work that Bike Newport does. And just the advocacy alone is really eye-opening, especially for, a very bikeable city. So. that's my story.
Awesome. Thanks, Allyson. Claire, on to you. How did your bike story begin, and what drew you and inspired you to join bike advocacy and specifically Bike Newport?
Yeah, well, thanks for your great question. So as you can tell, probably from my accent, I'm from England, so I grew up there, and from an early age was always biking. I can even remember learning to ride on vacation. I can still remember very vividly the moment my dad took my training wheels off and off I went. And maybe that's why this color is my favorite, because my bike was this color. So it's always been a favorite. So I have very vivid memories of learning to ride, and then, just always being out and about. My friends and I would just ride around the neighborhood, and that's what we did. We rarely walked anywhere. We just got on our bikes and off we went and explored literally everywhere, on trails and riding jumps and things. So for me, being on a bike was about freedom. It was about fun. It was about exploring. And I still feel like that now. Like when I get on my bike, even just that quick commute home from the office is, it's that feeling of the wind in your hair, and like it's just a bit of an adventure every time I get on my bike. So as a child, I grew up biking, and then in college, that's how I commuted everywhere. And then wherever I've lived, I've always explored by bike. For me, it's one of the best ways to find out where everything is, to get oriented in a new place. So I just hop on my bike and explore and figure out where I am and orient myself by bike. I love mountain biking, which I'm trying to get more into right now. I've done quite a lot of road biking. And so for me, it's fun, it's freedom, it's fitness, it's commuting. It's kind of all of the things that biking is so well known for. And so my journey from England landed me in America. I've been in Newport for almost 4 years now. And in looking around where I wanted to work, I was looking in Newport for not just any job, but somewhere I really wanted to work, somewhere I really had an interest in. And Bike Newport came up, and I was like, this is, looks like it's right up my alley. Everything I love about biking and being right in the heart of the community. And so that's how I ended up at Bike Newport. And really, for me, advocacy started at Bike Newport. I'd always biked my whole life, and I'm very comfortable on the roads, but really until fairly recently, it didn't really occur to me that, biking in some areas is not the safest thing. And I just kind of put it down to, well, that's how it is for bikers. And until it improves, I guess I just have to live with it. I never really thought about the next step of getting involved to make those improvements. And then working at Bike Newport, I was like, well, here I am, and we can do something about this. I'm with the right people. We've got the right tools. So let's make biking more friendly and more easily accessible so that people can choose to bike rather than be afraid of biking. So that's where we're at.
Thanks. Mm-hmm. All right, now to pivot a little bit to talking about the last year. 2020 obviously had a lot of challenges for everyone. Can you all talk a little bit about either how your own biking habits changed and specifically how the organization's work changed in response to the pandemic?
Sure. Okay, if I take this one.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a big shift. I mean, it was very clear very quickly that bikes were going to be a solution. As we were shutting down, it was clear that bikes were about having a safely distanced way to get around, being out in the air and not in an enclosed environment, getting the endorphins and the oxygen that made it feel not so bad, having ways to see people distanced, that there were no cars on the road. So people who were uncomfortable riding with cars had less of that stress. It became very clear very fast that bikes were part of the solution. And so right from day one, Bike Newport was saying, not what we can't do, but what we can do. And there were a lot of can't do's because everything we did was a do it together scenario. Lots of people sharing tools, holding things together, being in close contact. That all was not going to happen. The Bike Newport and our garages closed up, our education classes ended, school was on lockdown, everything was on lockdown, but people needed bikes. And we had an inventory of bikes that we were preparing for incoming hospitality workers from other countries. We always give bikes to kids who come from other countries to work in Newport for the summer. So we knew that we had some of that fleet ready, and we moved that over to the community distribution mode and started adding more. And over, the first 10 months of this, we while safely distanced, while being only one person at a time in the garage, while never meeting anybody up close and personal, we managed to restore and distribute almost 400 bicycles in the community. We had, events with kids outside in the snow with heaters blowing. We had mechanics coming in one at a time with 2-day breaks in between. Because honestly, Amelia, the number one thing that we had was our staff comfort. That came first. We had to make sure that staff were comfortable, that they weren't afraid, that everybody's concerns, anxiousness was all recognized, addressed. And then the second thing was to make sure that we were giving to the community what the community needed. And the third thing was meeting all of the requirements, because those first two things put us above and beyond the requirements. So we were really, in terms of all of the sanitizing and the distancing, we were on it. And then beyond that, we were finding ways with those constraints to do what needed to be done, which was very different from what we had been doing. We moved from do it together to we're going to do it for you. And because we never took a bike in to repair a bike. And part of that was our relationship with the local bike shops. That's their business model. We don't like to dilute that. But then the businesses couldn't keep up with the repair needs, and they didn't have any bikes to give people. So we were able to help out by repairing bikes, because people needed to fix the bikes that they had in their basements that they hadn't used. And people who didn't have bikes needed bikes. So we just shifted into delivery mode, and we did not stop. We got great support from the state. We got Take It Outside grants that helped us put up tents and have these blowers going. We got grants for workstations on wheels that we could roll outside, and all of the mats and ramps to do that. We got grants for more tools so we could set up more workstations and people didn't have to share things. The question we asked repeatedly is, how can we do this? What can we do and how can we do it? We never said we can't do it. And we breathed through it. And we had, in our own personal lives, we had a lot of challenges. Some of us had family around, some of us didn't. I lived by myself and lost my mother in the midst of this. We looked out for each other, and we did it, always putting interpersonal, we're looking out for each other first. And then what can we do for the community second? And we just delivered. And we wanted it to be a model for what was possible in the community, not just bikes, but hoping that everybody would see that we could adjust to what the circumstances were. And honestly, when you guys recognized us for doing that, it was very confirming and really wonderful, because I know that there was a little bit of our history in it and a lot of 2020. And that really means a lot to us, because as a society, we can recognize that bikes are a solution and really deliver on it in a way that's, longer term. So it was a very exciting year. I don't know, Allyson and Clare, you probably have something to add to that.
I think you spoke for all of us, Bari. I think you hit it all on the head. I second everything that you say, especially during, the pandemic, just to see the amount of people on bikes. The streets were empty, and the only thing you see on the road are bicycles. So that just felt good in itself. And a lot of those bicycles that we seen were our bicycles that we repaired and got back out to individuals who didn't have a bike, and then B, who needed their bike repaired because they weren't really riding before the pandemic because it was the colder months. And so we were there just in time. So again, I second everything that Bari said.
Yeah, I'll just add that, just like Allyson said, the roads were so quiet. And so what we saw were all these bicycles, and I was one of them, taking advantage of way fewer cars on the streets. It definitely felt safer. And, even though I'm somebody who's comfortable riding in traffic, it felt amazing to be riding with far few cars on the road. And I know for a lot of people, they've given us that feedback that that's one of the reasons that got them riding again or more, because they just felt safer. So in all our advocacy work, we're holding on to those thoughts. And the fact that all those riders haven't gone away, they're still riding. So we have more people on the streets of Newport riding than we did before the pandemic. And hopefully that trend will stay and it'll continue. And one of the other things that we did last year was the bike camp. So we'd always dreamed of having a summer bike camp. And last year we were gearing up for it. And then everything, got shut down. And again, we said, okay, can we still make this happen? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. A lot of it was waiting for the state to release their guidelines about recreation and gathering places. And so we were sort of in a holding pattern for a moment until they released their guidelines. And as soon as they did, we were like, okay, we can do this. And so we just really adapted and adjusted to what we had thought it was going to look like and created a vision of what we knew it was going to be. And it really just took off. And we were able to deliver 3 one-week programs to Newport kids in the North End at our bike facility, the Big Blue Bike Barn. And we were able to follow all the state guidelines, the local guidelines. We wore masks, we washed our hands, we had a hand washing station, and these kids had been cooped up at home since March. And here we were in July saying, we're here, we're ready for you. And, we just had so much fun riding around in the woods, in Montgomery Park, in the parking lot, doing bike safety drills, and then riding on the roads, putting all that into practice. We rode to the beach, we rode to the harbor. And it was just so great for these kids because they'd just been cooped up for months. And so for them to be outside in a program that worked was just really kind of one of the highlights of my Bike Newport career, honestly. And we're gearing up for that again this summer. Fewer restrictions, and we can have double the kids, double the week. So this year we're having 6 one-week programs instead of 3. So we've really just built on what we did last year. Yeah, looking forward to a great summer.
Oh, that's amazing.
Amelia, I think that one thing that people might be actually interested in was the survey that we did during this time to capture it. So while all these people were biking, we surveyed statewide with geographic indicators, who was riding, where they were riding, why they were riding more, what made them more comfortable if they were thinking about continuing it. And that executive summary has been used to make the case for improvements during the pandemic and post-pandemic. And that survey is being adapted for long term. So it's really important to capture, not just anecdotally, but actually with responses. So the survey was called Biking in the Time of Coronavirus. And that was another thing that was very, very valuable to our legislators and to our municipalities thinking about infrastructure improvements.
That's great. That's really great and a fabulous resource to have. So you might have, all 3 of you may have just answered this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway in case you have anything to add. What are you most proud of from Bike Newport's impact or from your own work, either in the past year or just in general in the organization's history?
I'll go first, I guess. I'm just really proud of all the work that we do, but I think the thing that I'm most proud of is the work that we've done over in Newport's North End, the side of Newport that's not really greatly connected to the rest of Newport. When you think of Newport, a lot of people think of Newport, they think of, the tourist attractions, the mansions, the ocean loop. But what Bike Newport has really done for our North End has really been incredible. I mean, we have our Big Blue Bike Barn that's located in the North End, and we have a lot of program out of there. Like Claire mentioned, we had our first ever bike camp out of that area. But I also live over in the North End, and I see a lot more people on bikes. Before our bike barn was located where it's at, you'd see, people here and there, you would see kids here and there, but now like everyone is on bikes, not only kids, but adults, families, friends. It's so cool just to watch the the kids riding on the bikes with their helmets on. Now helmets are really cool around here. So, there are all sorts of colors. They have mohawks hanging out of them. Kids designed at our bike camp last year, some kids designed their own bike helmets. So it's really cute just to watch them riding up and down the street. Some of them are riding on sidewalks. Some of them are riding in the street. I think the ones that are riding on sidewalks are under 12 years old. So they're following the rules of the road and the things that they learned over in our bike camp. So I think that's one of the things I'm most proud of. And then I think second would be we launched Black Girls Do Bike this year. And, for a long time, we've been underrepresented. And so now I'm starting to see this community of women of color getting together. Even, side conversations I'm having with women of color, they're super happy that this program started because they felt underrepresented. And so now they have people to ride with, they're meeting new people, they find people that are interested in the same things that they're interested in. So, I can go on a big long tangent, but I'll say like, those are my two top things that I'm most proud of is Black Girls Do Bike Newport and the attraction that Bike Newport has brought over to Newport's North End.
Awesome. Claire, Barry, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just reiterate, like for me, well, building off of what Allyson said, we wouldn't have been able to run the bike camp without the Big Blue Bike Barn in the North End. So this has been a journey of getting the Big Blue Bike Barn facility up and running to then allow us to build on the programs that we have. So yeah, all of the work in the North End that we've done, the bike camp that we managed to roll out, and then last year, just getting so many bikes out to people who needed them and wanted them last year. That was pretty incredible. So as much as it was a really, really tough year for a lot of people, I feel really proud of our achievements throughout the whole of last year. And really proud of us as a staff for pulling together, looking out for each other, and just sort of having this can-do attitude and building on everything that we've done so far that led to last year being a real change maker, actually. And everything that we're doing this year is building off of that. So a lot of really good points in a really tough year for everybody. So yeah, really proud of all of us.
Yeah, I would just like the common thread through all of this. What I'm most proud of and feel the most strongly about is the whole equity piece. It's Bike Newport, and biking is about everybody. And we're just constantly checking ourselves against that. Whatever we do has to be accessible for everyone. Geography, finance, style of riding, comfort riding, none of that should get in the way. Whatever it is, we have to address it so that everybody can participate. And there's just a real sense of listening to people, asking what people want, hearing the answers, and adjusting program and priorities to meet those needs so that it is about everyone. So, I always say with Bike Newport, it's like probably mostly a social justice organization because, it's all about everybody having access to solutions that are healthy, affordable, fun, and it's just the elevation of those elements, I think, is a model to other organizations and to the city and beyond to have those considerations. I feel like we're doing it really well, and it's exciting. The other thing really super proud of just happened recently, and that's pretty precedent setting. We brought together, excuse me, we were given land to use, a vacant lot to use by the Housing Authority, but it got pretty complicated about who was ensuring this now open space park area. We're building a pump track. We have gardens there. We have big containers filled with bikes. We run our program there. We're having a big canopy built by the architecture students from a local university. But it's a lot of open space to be insured by a tiny advocacy organization. But it took us 1.5 years, and we've come up with a 3-way agreement between the city, the Housing Authority, and Bike Newport that it makes it possible to transform a vacant lot that's still owned by someone who wants to maintain ownership of it, and transforming that into a public open space, in our case, that focuses on bike activity, and until that space is needed for other purposes. So we really want it to be a model all over Rhode Island and all over the country that, hey, if there's a vacant lot, if you've got an acre of land with a rusty fence around to connect, collecting debris, get together and figure out how to put it to use until it's needed. So that's a pretty exciting accomplishment.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm excited to see where that goes. So that's a great transition to my next question. Talking about the future, how do you all hope the next few years of bike advocacy change bicycling or the built environment for bicycling in Newport?
Okay, I'll go first. For me, getting involved in bike advocacy began at Bike Newport when I realized I was surrounded by people who could make it happen. And one of my hopes is that in the next few years, more and more of the community will see what we do. And already that is, the word is spreading. People are much more familiar with Bike Newport and the work we've done over the last few years. And people are getting involved, people are getting to know us more. And my hope is that that will just continue to build and that people will see that we have a voice, they have a voice, and that we can make change together, and that the local community members will reach out to us, we'll reach out to them, and that they'll get more involved, because it's easier when there are people around you who not only know what to do, how to do it, but welcome the involvement of the community members. So my hope is that over time, more and more people will raise their hands and want to get involved in improving bike infrastructure and get involved in programs. So that's my hope.
I mean, Claire couldn't, I know I seconded Bari before, now I'm seconding Claire, but I mean, she couldn't have said it any better. I just feel like for me, coming to Bike Newport, that's where bike advocacy began. So really hoping that, the message that we put out into the community will grow more bicycle advocates for pedestrian safety, for bicycle safety, for bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. I think that is my hope, that more people start understanding why we do the work that we do and want to get involved, especially with more people on bikes. I feel like I think that that's going to be a really good turning point, is to create more advocates. So that's my hope, that more of the community comes out and advocates for all the great things that we've been advocating for.
I love this question, Amelia, because, my hope is that we can stop having to make the case over and over again, that we can be asked to do this, that it's wanted, that the officials from city to state, own it. They're not doing it because they have to. They're doing it because they know that it's brilliant and it's got all of the economic and health and environmental and personal and societal benefits that we all know exist. I want to stop making the case. I want to be asked to do it. All of us, I want us all to be asked to do and to help make the transitions and not make the case over and over and over again. We all get, we know we want people to own it. We want the leadership to own it.
Absolutely.
And we have it. We have it with Mayor Pete. We got a good one in DC now. So, he does own it, and I'd like to see more of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great answers, all of you. That's awesome. So one last question. How do you hope bike advocacy itself changes or grows going forward? And Bari, I feel like your answer could fits on that one too. Yeah. Anything else you guys want to add to that?
I like what you said, Bari, actually, not only getting people involved to make the case, but yeah, eventually just having it integrated, green and complete streets. It's just part of what happens. So when there's a redesign of a road or a new road, that the roads are there for sharing, and that my hope is that the advocates, including us and local and state, just think about bikes as part of what happens on the road. There's cars, there's pedestrians, there's scooters, there's motorbikes, there's everybody. The roads are there for sharing. And so when that becomes the norm, that bikes are considered with equal accessibility to the roads, that we don't have to make that case. So we don't have to go to every single council meeting. We don't have to, advocate at the state level. It's just the norm. It's just what happens. That's when we know we've made it.
Absolutely. Allyson, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'll say the same. I think that I loved it. Barry said, hope that, it just happens organically, and that, we don't have to, like Claire said, continue to go to these city council meetings. I hope that it's just something that just kind of falls into place for itself. So, we'll keep our fingers crossed, and we'll keep doing the hard work, and, watch this happen organically.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, Amelia, I think part of what you're asking is about advocacy itself. And I think advocacy itself needs to check itself that it's representing everyone. I mean, that has to be, we have to check ourselves at every turn. Is everybody included in what we're doing, whether it's different kinds of riders, from spandex to commuting to kids to, parents getting back on bikes or octogenarians getting back on bikes. It's just, it has to be everyone, every body size, everybody, every culture, every kind of bicycle. We just have to check ourselves at every turn that we're advocating for everyone, that everybody can be on a bike. And that's the advocates, that's our job. We need to check ourselves and make sure that we're doing that.
Absolutely.
And it's also the great equalizer. I mean, when we do it right, we don't see those categories. It's a great equalizer, bikes.
That's awesome. Great. Oh, this has been so fantastic. Do you all have anything else you want to highlight or that I should have asked you about?
Just grateful for the
I
great
just want to
share
that this is,
Oh no,
go ahead, Allyson, please.
I was just going to say, I'm super grateful. We're super grateful for the great work that the League of American Bicyclists does for all organizations, for all people. I think you guys do a really good job of making sure that everyone feels included, everyone has a voice, and opens the doors for new connections. So thank you, Amelia, and to your team.
Oh, awesome. Mary, you have something else?
Absolutely, really inspiring. Yeah, we just love being part of the League community, and we look forward to being in the same place one day again together. And we're, grateful for this opportunity and this acknowledgement, but we're mostly grateful for what you guys do on the national level for all of us.
Thanks.
Yeah, I second all of that, and cannot wait to get back to DC. Hopefully March 2022, we'll all be there and we can be in the same room together and celebrate biking all together again.
Hear, hear.
Yes.
I definitely look forward to that. Awesome. Well, I want to send it all right back to you all. I am so grateful for all the work you do and the model that you set for organizations all across the country, Bike Newport, and you three and your team do so much work. And I say this about the League sometimes as a small staff, we punch above our weight, and you guys really do too. It's so impressive the amount of work you all do. And the impact that you've been having. So congratulations, this is a much deserved award. Yeah, thank you for all the ongoing work you're doing for Newport and beyond, and to inspire others. And yeah, thank you for joining us today for this bike side chat. And we definitely look forward to seeing you in person and celebrating this in person at next year's summit, hopefully.
Thanks,
Thank
Amelia.
you.
Yes, do you know that Newport is the birthplace of the League? You
That's
know
right.
this, right? That the
Yep.
first meeting of the League of American Wheelmen took place in Newport. So come to Newport and we'll celebrate, the anniversaries of the League as well. We would love that.
Absolutely. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic.